Welcome back, Defenders. We've got good news. Good news for NATO and good news for Ukraine. NATO breathes sigh of relief after tiptoeing around Trump at the summit. We don't have to play dumb. We know exactly what's going on here. NATO leaders are sucking up to Trump because NATO needs the United States. And this week was really easy, because the only thing that NATO leaders had to say and do was congratulate Trump on his strikes on Iran. And this works. Trump loves being thanked, Trump loves being praised, and this week was easy for him. So let's quick mention what the NATO Secretary General said. Mark Rutte calls Trump daddy. Daddy has to use strong language, says Mark Rutte, as his flattery at Donald Trump continues to reach new, bizarre heights. I don't want people to think that Mark Rutte is debasing himself, humiliating himself. He's just doing whatever it takes to win, whatever it takes to defeat the Russians. And if that means flattering Trump in a text message, he's willing to do it. Thank you. I'm not going to read the text message. This was highly inappropriate of Trump to screenshot it and then post it on social media. But I don't think he did it to humiliate him. I think he did it to say, hey, look, NATO approves of me bombing Iran. Either way, it put Trump in a good mood, and the entire NATO summit went very well. Trump says NATO meeting was nice. Zelensky wore a suit. The war goes on. Zelensky and Trump spoke for 50 minutes, 3 times longer than the last time at the Vatican. Still, they left with different stories. Doesn't matter. This went really well. Here's a group photograph. This was from the dinner with the King and Queen of the Netherlands. The Netherlands still has a monarchy. And there's Zelensky, wearing his black suit. There's Trump with a huge grin on his face. And there's Viktor Orban looking unhappy. So here's the photograph of Zelensky and Trump meeting, and this is what President Zelensky has to say. I had a good meeting with President Trump in The Hague. I congratulated President Trump on the successful operation in the Middle East. It is important that the U.S. actions have weakened not only their nuclear program, but also their drone production capabilities. We will continue to keep an eye on the situation. We discussed the protection of our people with the President, first and foremost, the purchase of American air defense systems to shield our cities, our people, churches, and infrastructure. Ukraine is ready to buy this equipment and support from American weapon manufacturers. Europe can help. We also discussed the potential for co-production of drones. We can strengthen each other. The meeting went well. Trump did not criticize or attack Ukraine or Zelensky in any way. And I think this was the emotional highlight of the entire summit. This is a Ukrainian journalist with the BBC asking Donald Trump about Patriot systems for Ukraine, and this was Trump's sympathetic response.
Go ahead. White shirt. Oh, she's all excited.
So, BBC News Ukrainian.
Where are you from?
I'm from Ukraine.
Oh.
So my question to you is whether or not the US is ready to sell anti-air missile systems Patriot to Ukraine. We know that Russia has been pounding Ukraine really heavily right now.
Are you living yourself now in Ukraine?
My husband is there.
Wow.
And
I can see you're very, it's amazing.
And me with the kids, I'm in Warsaw actually, because he wanted me to be.
Is your husband a soldier? No?
He's
there now?
Yeah.
Wow. That's rough stuff, right? That's tough. And you're living here?
In Warsaw.
And you're a reporter?
I am.
Good. So let me just tell you, they do want to have the missiles, okay, as they call them, the Patriots. And we're going to see if we can make some available, They're very hard to get. We need them too. We were supplying them to Israel, and they're very effective, 100% effective. Hard to believe how effective. And they do want that more than any other thing, as you probably know. That's a very good question, and I wish you a lot of luck. I mean, I can see it's very upsetting to you. So.
Trump signals support for sending more Patriot missiles to Ukraine. The quote was, "We're going to see if we can make some available." Obviously, President Zelensky also mentioned this to Trump in their private meeting. And who knows, maybe we'll make progress, but this wasn't a no. This wasn't a dismissal, which basically is what Trump did about a month and a half ago when he was asked this same question. NATO summit with US participation recognizes Russia as the long-term threat to the entire alliance. This is also good news. NATO members committed to spending 5% of GDP on defense by 2035 after unanimously identifying Russia as a long-term threat to Euro-Atlantic security at the first alliance summit under Donald Trump's new presidency. So the language in the NATO statement is that Russia is the primary geopolitical threat to the European continent, and the United States didn't object. They didn't veto it. That's good news. And this was also a very important question. A reporter asked President Trump to clarify his stance on Article 5 NATO protection. If NATO was attacked, would the United States come to NATO's defense under Article 5? And Trump said yes.
Mr. President, you said you would clarify your stance on Article 5 just yesterday. Is that something you can explain
I stand
today?
with it. That's why I'm here. If I didn't stand with it, I wouldn't be here.
So you would defend countries even
Well,
if
what
they
did
don't
I
pay
just
up their
say?
fair
Yes,
share?
of course. Why would I be here?
This is a very bizarre turn of events, but if you just think about it, all the other dictatorships in the world right now are condemning Trump and condemning the United States. Because Iran is part of the BRICS alliance, Russia is condemning Trump for attacking Iran, China is condemning Trump for attacking Iran, probably North Korea is also condemning Trump for attacking Iran, but nobody in NATO is. The Europeans, even though this is a violation of international law, it doesn't matter. While Russia is continuing this war against Ukraine, Iran is Russia's military ally. The connection has always been there, guys, and maybe Donald Trump is finally starting to realize it, that NATO is his natural allies. These are our partners. These are our friends. We should be working with them to help defeat the Russians. Trump was asked other questions that were important. Do you view Putin as an enemy? Trump replies, it's possible. I know one thing, he would like to settle. He would like to get out of this thing. It's a mess for him. Not true. Putin is not looking to end these wars. Will the US give any more money to Ukraine's defense this year? As far as money going, we'll see what happens. That's not a no. There's a lot of spirits. Look, Vladimir Putin really has to end that war. This is all good news. Trump calls Putin difficult after meeting with Zelensky. Putin is the one who refuses to end this war, will not agree to a ceasefire. Trump does not want to pressure the Russians at this time, but he is unhappy with the Russians because they won't agree to a ceasefire. Trump plays nice as NATO eyes historic spending hike. The goal is to raise NATO spending for each country to 5% of GDP by 2035. This is in 10 years. If Russia is defeated in the next 2 years, then maybe countries won't have to go to 5%. But the baseline defense spending has to be 3.5 with an additional 1.5 for broader security. This is a win for Trump. This is what Trump was demanding. NATO is agreeing to it. And everyone in NATO is now saying to Trump, you were correct. We should be spending more on our militaries. Russia is a direct threat to the continent. This is making Trump very happy. Let me play for you a little bit of what the NATO Secretary General said at the summit.
Our resounding message to him and the Ukrainian people is that Ukraine has our continued support, including with over 35 billion euros pledged so far this year, with more to follow. Our aim is to keep Ukraine in the fight today so that it can enjoy a lasting peace in the future. We stand by Ukraine in its pursuit of peace and will continue to support Ukraine on its irreversible path to NATO membership.
NATO is still saying that the path to membership for Ukraine is irreversible. The Russians have to be defeated first. Ukraine has to get all of their 1991 borders back. But it's going to happen eventually. Whether it takes 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, we don't know. But Russia is going to be defeated. International law will be upheld. The Russians will be held accountable for their crimes. This also happened. Zelensky visiting the Council of Europe. This is in The Hague. And there was the creation of a special tribunal that'll have jurisdiction to prosecute senior Russian officials for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, in violation of the UN Charter's prohibition against the use of armed forces against another state. So we're going to start doing criminal trials in absentia. European Council is going to start prosecuting Russian politicians and Russian generals for war crimes and crimes against humanity. It could take decades, but they will be hunted down, they will be arrested, and they will be held accountable for all of their crimes. Ukraine can win. Trump's nominee for Europe commander tells the Senate. This is Trump's nominee for this is the commander of U.S. Central Command, Air Force Lieutenant General Alexis Grinkowicz, and he told the Senate confirmation hearing, Ukraine can win this war. This is a good indication that Trump is willing to appoint military commanders to European posts that support this position.
Can Ukraine win?
Senator, I think Ukraine can win. I think anytime your own homeland is threatened, you fight with a tenacity that's difficult for us to conceive of if we haven't found ourselves in that same situation.
The general is correct. The core territories of Russia are not being threatened. All of Russia's soldiers fight for money. They are slaves and mercenaries, whereas the Ukrainians are free men. They are fighting for their homeland. They are fighting for the defense of their country. They are facing genocide and annihilation if they do not win this war. The Russians on the other side, they don't have that motivation. This is fantastic that Trump is willing to appoint a 3-star general to a European post that is willing to say Ukraine can win. This has been missing, so this is good news to have people like this in important positions. The United States is not ready to fully restore work of embassies according to a Putin advisor. The United States does not appear ready to fully normalize diplomatic relations with Russia. This is according to a Kremlin foreign policy advisor. Because Russia is not agreeing to the deal. The deal that Trump was offering was, we'll undo everything. You can keep all the territory you've taken, we'll lift all sanctions, return all frozen assets. The only thing that Russia has to do is stop killing people, agree to a ceasefire, and stop taking more land. And Russia rejected that offer. So every day, Donald Trump is drifting away from the Russians. And there was all this talk about normalizing relations, direct flights from Moscow to DC, reopening embassies and consulates, an exhibition hockey game between Russia and the United States. And Trump is just kind of ignoring it all because the Russians never agreed to a ceasefire. Let's now get to the bad news. Russia can sustain war in Ukraine through 2027. This is NATO's official analysis. I don't want to see this war go for 2 more years, but this is what the experts are saying. And yes, if Russia stops paying their soldiers nice sign-up bonuses and nice monthly salaries, then economically they might be able to stretch this out, but Russia's defense production is maxed out. They have a labor shortage, they have supply shortages, all of their civilian infrastructure which supports the military is collapsing and breaking down because there's no money in the budget to maintain anything. Every day the Russian population gets older and weaker. And Russia needs people to pay taxes and to support the war efforts. The future for Russia is dark. It's just a question of how much more time, how much longer can they continue to suffer by this war of choice, this completely unnecessary war that Putin is forcing the Russian people to carry out. What about the sanctions bill in Congress? Lindsey Graham once again is screaming he's got 84 co-sponsors ready to pass this bill, but we're not talking about it. We're not debating and voting on this bill because Donald Trump doesn't want it. Crushing Russia with sanctions would jeopardize Ukraine peace talks, according to Rubio. This is what Secretary Rubio had to say at the NATO conference.
What everybody here wants us to do, and that is come in and crush them with more sanctions, we probably lose our ability to talk to them about the ceasefire. And then who's talking to them? Because they don't talk to anybody else in Europe. They don't talk to anybody else in the world who is on our side of this thing and views it the way we do. So I don't think the president will know the right time and place in which he may have to do that. He has said he may have to do that. But if he does it, you're almost admitting that this is not going to be negotiated anytime soon. So he wants to give it every opportunity to have influence over the Russian Federation towards a ceasefire. And that's the option he's trying to preserve, because it's the option of peace.
Russia doesn't want a ceasefire. For 5 or 6 months now, Trump has been president offering an off-ramp for Putin. A really good deal for the Russians if they just stop the war. And Putin keeps telling Trump no. He doesn't want a ceasefire. He doesn't want to end the war. He wants to create a new union states of Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia, and then get back all their peripheral territories. The Baltics, Finland, Poland, the Caucasus, Moldova. We could get there. Maybe. We'll see, guys. It's frustrating, I know. But the Russians are frustrated too. Putin to skip BRICS summit in Brazil over his ICC arrest warrant. The next BRICS summit will be in Brazil, and Putin can't go because he'll be arrested for being a war criminal. So he's going to have to video conference in once again. Strikes didn't destroy Iran's nuclear sites. U.S. intel finds contradicting Trump. This is the follow-up, I guess. This fight between Israel and Iran seems to be coming down a little bit. But Donald Trump is screaming that the military strike on these underground nuclear sites was a success, when there really isn't any evidence to prove that. And there might be top-secret U.S. intel saying that the facility wasn't destroyed. The enriched uranium was not destroyed. And this really angers and upsets Trump. And Trump is mad at his national security advisor, or the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is at risk of being fired because a month ago she said Iran was not close to having a nuclear weapon. These leaks in the intelligence community are also her responsibility. Somebody underneath her is leaking intelligence to CNN and the New York Times. So Tulsi put out this tweet. New intelligence confirms President Trump has stated numerous times Iran's nuclear facilities have been destroyed. If the Iranians choose to rebuild, they would have to rebuild all 3 facilities entirely, which would likely take years to do. This is the new bizarro reality we all have to live in, where anything Donald Trump wants to be true and says, everyone underneath him just has to go along with and pretend like it's true. She's trying to keep her job, but the bigger problem is we won't know what is actual intelligence and what is public relations intended for an audience of one. This is bad, guys. Trump is getting intelligence that contradicts what he wants to be the truth, and he just yells at people. He just threatens to fire them when they don't say exactly what he wants him to say. That's bad. Concerning Iran, the government is not going to collapse. The Ayatollah was not assassinated, and Iran seems to be just declaring victory. Even though they lost their air force, they lost their air defenses, all of their nuclear sites were blown up, they took horrendous military casualties, they're just going to declare victory. because Israel did not overthrow their government. Okay, sure, Iran, you did great. But there is tangible benefits to Ukraine and to NATO. Iran may reduce missile shipments to Russia due to Israeli strikes. Iran's missile transfers to Russia may face disruption as Tehran prioritizes its own stockpile amid escalating conflict, with Western officials reporting the Islamic Republic now holds 1,400 missiles from an estimated 3,000 original inventory. So these strikes by Israel, they blew up the factories that produce missiles and drones. They blew up stockpiles. They buried facilities that were underground. And Iran probably lost about half of their missile inventory. And now that they're feeling pretty insecure, they're not going to sell or transfer any of these missiles and drones to the Russians anymore. So this is great news. Also, what is an alliance with Russia really worth? Iran was left completely alone. China didn't help Iran. Russia didn't help Iran. Belarus, North Korea. This is a public relations defeat for the Russians because you can't rely on the Russians. Any piece of paper, any agreements that Putin signs is meaningless because the Russians will break their word whenever it benefits them. This is the message that was just sent to every country in the world. If you want to partner with the Russians, prepare to be betrayed at some point, because Russia's not going to be there for you when you need them. This is also great news. Oil prices keep dropping after Trump's attack on Iran because Iran did not close the Straits of Hormuz, because the conflict did not escalate. The price of oil shot up to $78 a barrel, and it's already back down to $67. This was a temporary spike, but now that we know that things are hopefully de-escalating, Russia's not going to make huge profits off of rising oil prices. Let's cover some other headlines. Ukraine just brought back its Bayraktar TB2 drones, and they're breaking through Russia's air defenses. This is not correct. No, the TB2 was stopped being used because it's very easy to shoot down. So no, it's not breaking through Russia's air defense systems, but Ukraine can utilize it along the Black Sea and the Dnieper River, where Russia's air defense systems are not active. So there's recent video of these are like infantry or patrol boats on the Dnieper River, and Ukraine successfully blew them up with a Bayraktar TB2. I'll link the video down below if you want to see some Russian soldiers go boom. Russian forces expanding their use of motorcycles. As heavy machinery becomes an easy target for Ukrainian drones along the front lines, Moscow's military also may leverage two-wheelers in future wars, according to NATO. So let me share with you the Russians getting all excited about their souped-up motorcycles to go into combat with.
Благодарим всех участвовавших в сборе средств на данную мототехнику. Благодаря вам мы своевременно осуществляем доставку провизии и БК на линии боесоприкосновения. Победа будет за нами!
Classic Russia. What is curious to me about this video is that they recorded this and then they uploaded this. Like, they didn't refilm it. What? If you're a Russian soldier, why would you post this? This video is pretty interesting. Let's hit play. And this is what the battlefield and the forests and fields of Ukraine now looks like, as these fiber optic FPV drones are dominating the battlefield on both sides. Look at the glimmering of the plastic, or, you know, the cables. This is horrifying. Like, this is terrifying if you had to crawl through or go on assault, and this is what you're staring at. All these fiber optic cables from previous strikes. Putin lets commanders jail soldiers over smartphone use on the front line. Under the Kremlin's new rules, Russian unit commanders can now throw soldiers caught using a phone in a war zone into the brig on their own authority. So the Russians do not want their soldiers having smartphones to take video and then upload on the internet how terrible Russia is doing in this war. I don't mention or link or share these videos. It's every day now. Every day on Twitter, I see the latest video of Russian commanders brutalizing, beating, humiliating, torturing their own soldiers, tying them to trees, throwing them in pits, making them fight each other to the death. So I'll link this video down below if you want today's taste of Russian brutality against their own. This is a soldier, I don't know what he did, but he's just being beaten mercilessly by his commanding officer. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Italy commits $1.6 million to boost Ukraine's battle against landmines. Thank you so much to the Italians. The UK will provide Ukraine with up to 350 Osram air defense missiles funded by interest generated from frozen Russian assets. And these are supposed to be air-launched, but NATO built a truck to make these ground-launched, and they're very good at intercepting drones and missiles. So thank you so much to the UK. The last couple videos, I am fascinated by this guy. This guy, Sergei Tsikhanouski, he is the opposition leader in Belarus. Lukashenko put him in jail 5 years ago, and I don't know why, but Lukashenko let him out of jail. And this guy speaks English. So let me share with you a little bit of this web address that the opposition leader of Belarus gave to the United Nations about his time in Belarusian jail.
Mr. President, I was tortured. I was held in solitary confinement. I was frozen. I wasn't even given a pen to write a few words. For years, I didn't receive a single letter, not even from my daughter. They filled my ears with lie and propaganda. They tried to convince me that everyone had forgotten me. That is happening in Belarusian prisons is not law enforcement. It is torture, abuse, and the destruction of human beings. People are literally being killed behind bars. I want God out these alive thanks to international solidarity and especially thanks to the efforts of the USA administration. Now I want everyone to be free. More than 1,000 people are still behind bars. We must fight for each and every one of them. The United Nations must act. This is not politics. This is a humanitarian issue. It is not even just a human rights issue. It is a matter of life and death. I urge the US Secretary General to intervene, to use every one resource to save these lives. And I urge all of you, speak out about what is happening in the very heart of Europe. To all Belarusians, keep fighting, because freedom is the most precious thing a person has. And it belongs to everyone, not just the chosen few. Thank you.
To the people of Belarus, continue fighting. Freedom belongs to everyone. Wow. This guy is going to grow some hair back and gain a little weight. But he speaks English. And every day now on social media, he can put out videos in Russian and English calling for the people of Belarus to resist. Resist being absorbed into Russia's new empire. I like this guy. This is a huge boost for the opposition. And this is just a great love story. Him and his wife basically took up the opposition mantle for Belarus after he was thrown in jail. But just seeing these two interacting with each other, it's just nice to see some love in this world, guys. They were in Poland together, but I think these two are going to continue going to Western capitals to make the arguments that Belarus needs to be free and the Russians have to be stopped. Final video I want to share with you is the standing ovation given to President Zelensky in the Parliament of the Netherlands. He addressed their parliament, and this is how he ended his speech.
Russia must be forced into peace. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you, Netherlands. Slava Ukraini. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the Dutch. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.